I'm going to read aloud Block 1 to my fellow non-American blacks. In America, you are black, baby. Dear non-American black, when you make the choice to come to America, you become black. Stop arguing. Stop saying I'm Jamaican or Ghanaian. America doesn't care. So what if you weren't black in your country? You're in America now. We all have our moments of initiation into society of former Negroes. Mine was in class in undergrad when I was asked to give the black perspective, only I had no idea what that was. So I just made something up and admitted you say I'm not black only because you know black is at the bottom of America's race ladder. And you want none of that, don't deny now. What if being black had all the privileges of being white? Would you still say, don't call me black, I'm from Trinidad? I didn't think so. So you're black, baby. And here's the deal with becoming black. You must show that you are offended when such words as watermelon or tar baby are used in jokes, even if you don't know what the hell is being talked about. And since you are a non-American black, the chances are that you won't know. In undergrad, a white classmate asks if I like watermelon. I say yes, and another classmate says, oh my god, that is so racist. And I'm confused, wait, how? You must nod back when a black person nods at you in a heavily white area. It is called the black nod. It is a way for black people to say, you are not alone, I'm here too. In describing black women you admire, always use the word strong, because that is what black women are supposed to be in America. If you are a woman, please do not speak your mind as you are used to doing in your country, because in America, strong-minded women are scary. And if you are a man, be hyper mellow and never get too excited, or somebody will worry that you're about to pull a gun. When you watch television and hear that a racist slur was used, you must immediately become offended, even though you are thinking, but why won't they tell me exactly what was said? Even though you would like to be able to decide for yourself how offended to be or whether to be offended at all, you must nevertheless be very offended. When a crime is reported, pray that it is not committed by a black person. And if it turns out to have been committed by a black person, stay well away from that crime area for weeks. Or you might be stopped for fitting the profile. If a black cashier gives poor service to a non-black person in front of you, compliment that person's shoes or something to make up for the bad service, because you're just as guilty for the cashier's crimes. If you are in a heavy Ivy League college and a young Republican tells you that you are only here because of affirmative action, do not whip out your perfect grades from high school. Instead, gently point out that the biggest beneficiaries of affirmative action are white women. If you go to eat in a restaurant, please tip generously. Otherwise, the next black person who comes in will get awful service, because waitresses groan when they get a black table. You see, black people have a gene that makes them not tip, so please overpower that gene. If you're telling a non-black person about something racist that happened to you, make sure you are not bitter. Don't complain. Be forgiving, if possible, make it funny. Most of all, do not be angry. Black people are not supposed to be angry about racism, otherwise you get no sympathy. This applies only for white liberals, by the way. Don't even bother telling a white conservative about anything racist happened to you, because the conservative will tell you that you are the real racist and your mouth will hang open in confusion. Okay, now on to my analyze. So, in America, you are a non-American black, and then you become American black, which opens up a whole new universe full of racial accusations and preconceptions. As a new American black, you must feel the same injustice of those who are Native American blacks, because you are now one of them. You must partake in the greetings and understand how politically correct everything is when it concerns you. You must start to understand what is acceptable to say and what is not. You must behave as if you have been here all along, going through the same struggle because you represent black people, because of your skin color, and as a black person in America, you must behave a certain way. This pretty much sums up all you have to know about how it's like to come to America as a black person, colored per se. The problem with this mentality is that it strips you from your individuality. It does not matter where you are from. If you have brown skin, you are black. You can say goodbye to identity. You can say goodbye to the culture you had so much pride in. To them, you are nothing more than a black person. You will share the same burden as black people in this country, even if you don't understand why. The stereotypes will be used to define you. You no longer are an individual, and that's a shame. The writer says, you must show that you are offended when such words as watermelon or tar baby are used in jokes. You must not when a black person nod at you. In describing black women you admire, always use the word strong. Never get too excited or somebody will worry that you're about to pull a gun. When a crime is reported, pray that it was not committed by a black person, etc. These are all rules that, as I said before, strips one's identity. I don't think one should ever have to experience that. The writer says, so what if you weren't black in your country? You're in America now. So basically, if one came from a country where race was not an issue, one did not think of themselves as black and only became black when they came to America. So as I said, even if your skin is slightly brown, you are now stabled as a black person, according to the writer at least. In America, if you have a certain skin color, you then have to endure what the majority of people who have that race. You are now part of the mass of black folk and wishing you were part of the white folks. The writer describes that if there were pride in being black, like in being white, and if one could get the same treatment, then certainly they wouldn't deny it, would they? The writer states the following exhibit from Block 2. White folks don't get treated like shit in upper-class African-American communities, and white folks don't get denied bank loans or mortgages precisely because they are white, and black juries don't give white criminals worse sentences for the same crime, and black police officers don't stop white folk for driving, while black and white companies don't choose not to hire somebody because their name sounds white, and black teachers don't tell kids that they're not smart enough to become doctors, and black politicians do not try to trick some to reduce the voting power of white folks through gerrymandering. And advertising agencies don't say they can't use white models to advertise glamorous products because they are not considered aspirational by the mainstream. Okay, so this was a long sentence and there was no commas, no dots whatsoever. It's a lot to take in and it says a lot. When you as a reader reads it, it's like you constantly think of new things to add to the list. That's why there's such big use of the word and. Just like when you were a kid and you wanted a doll and a pony and a dog and a new bike and a blanket and a teapot and a Build-A-Bear and so on so far. You get the idea. Being black means understanding a certain social construct and knowing how to behave and to respond to things. Even if you are a non-American black, you are expected to know because you live in America and they will treat you the same even if you do not understand it. Like you had to nod at black people if you were in the area overly populated by white people, like the writer explained. The only reason you say that race is not an issue is because you wish it was not. We all wish it was not, but it is a lie. Like the writer explained, this didn't happen in 1860. It happened in 1960. That's not even that long ago. And if we look into the introduction text from our compendium Black Voices, we can read the following exhibit. Over the next couple of years, the United States Congress passed the Civil Rights Act 1964 that banned discrimination based on race, color, religion, or national origin, and Voting Rights Act 1965, which protected voting rights for all Americans. Legally, segregation and racism had been permanently abolished from the first time in the history of the United States, but discrimination, though illegal, would not die easily. And the first block actually describes this perfectly. However, both of the blocks describes racism as still being there, and according to the exhibit, it shouldn't be, it's illegal. But we all know that's unfortunately not the case here. I think it's easier for a person from the outside to see certain things. I think it happens both ways, really, because I've had a friend who came to Denmark and told me things about Denmark and us Danes that I found strange, but yet again true. But I hadn't quite noticed because I was so absorbed in it that I hadn't quite taken note of it. So it's kind of the same when a black person enters America, then they really see all the racism, but maybe a black person or a normal person growing up in America today, maybe they won't notice it the same way as someone who came from a country where they were used to everyone being black, if you know what I mean. I think this blog starts up conversations that people normally wouldn't have because they're uncomfortable having them. It's definitely a taboo. When silence surrounds any subject, there's always a danger there. I think what happens with race in the US is that there's a lot of misunderstandings and a lot of assumptions pile up and are not challenged. I believe very much in human connections, and I think that honesty can lead to better, stronger, and more resilient connections. I think people who come to America want to be integrated to the society. It's like the poetry by Langston Hunter, I too, from the compendium. I too sing America. I too am America. Now that was the opening line and the ending line. Now we talked about this in class, and as a conclusion we talked about the want and the need in this poem. The want is definitely wanting to be part of the world, if you must say so. The want to be respected, to be integrated. And the need is the basic need of a human connection. That's what everyone needs, and that's also what the writer is trying to tell us. If we constantly put people in these boxes, categorize them, then they won't get the connections. There won't be this human connection. It will be awful. We need to build bridges between us and not burn them down. America needs to realize that we are not one and the same. All humans, yes, but far from being alike. And maybe that's really the message of these two blocks. That and the fact that you should listen more to each other. The writer explains on the last page in block 2 that it's okay to be uncomfortable asking questions, but you should ask them anyway. The writer even says, it's easy to tell when a question is coming from a good place. And I think that really explains her view on society, and she really wants people to just ask her, I think it's her, ask her what's going on and okay, so where from and what's this and what's that. So yeah, and with that final sentence, I think I'm done. So thank you so much for listening.